Hey everyone, today we are diving back into Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 10, and if you thought the TV series ended things, think again. The Buffyverse is back and it's more emotional than ever. This part of the story has everything: love, drama, ghostly returns, and even old enemies trying to take over the world. So season 8, yeah, that one went big. Turns out Buffy and Angel's whole connection wasn't fate. They were basically being played by Twilight, this godlike being, and Whistler, the half-demon working for the powers that be. Angel ended up leading a mission to evolve into a god in a brand new universe by sacrificing our world. But Buffy wasn't having it. She shut it all down by destroying the seed of magic, the core of all mystical power on Earth, just to save the planet. She stopped the apocalypse, but not before Angel started a battle that killed hundreds of Slayers and Giles. The Watcher left everything he owned in England to Faith, except the vampire book. That one went to Buffy. Season 9, way more grounded. We got some solid Buffy energy again and a lot more real-life problems, like Buffy thinking she was pregnant. Honestly, one of the strongest storylines in the season. It really felt like season 6 in the best way. Introspective, a little heavy but real. Buffy was figuring out who she was, digging deep into her own identity. Also, this season introduced us to a whole new mythology for the Buffyverse. Without the seed, the end of magic had arrived. Magic as we knew it was basically over. Buffy fought these zombie-like vampires, but one thing stayed the same: Angel's redemption arc. It had been a constant through every season and every show. He had been trying to make up for what he did. Together with Faith, he resurrected Giles using a set of magical artifacts. Spike helped with the mission, but in the end, they only managed to bring back the Watcher as a little kid. Meanwhile, Dawn was dying because she was the key, and without magic that was a problem. So the Scoobies turned to Giles's mysterious vampire book and found some answers in the deeper well, where Willow created a new seed of magic. And finally, season 10 opened a new chapter, all about new magic, new rules mostly tied again to the vampire book, but now its pages were completely blank. The season started by introducing us to Vicky, who had already turned into a vampire under this new magic. And get this, she could walk in the sun and even transform into a bat. We had only seen moves like that from the iconic Dracula before. So now Buffy had to hunt not just zompires, but these upgraded vampires too. And surprise for anyone who missed Anya, she was back. Well, kind of, now as a ghost. Officially, the canon couple in the show's continuation was Xander and Dawn, but a lot of fans really missed Anya, so the writers brought her back as a spirit, which made for some intense moments for Xander. Anya reminded him of past troubles and emotional ups and downs. The spotlight wasn't just on Xander's personal life. Buffy was right there too. From the first episodes, she and Spike flirted and kicked ass side by side just like old times. But her thoughts about relationships and what was normal ran as a main theme. Buffy voiced her fears and doubts openly. She decided to turn down a date with Detective Dowling but wanted to stay friends. Ironically, she actually went to meet him with Spike. That definitely added some extra drama. Xander and Dawn traveled to Transylvania to visit Dracula and figure out why vampires were suddenly using tricks straight out of his legendary playbook. When Dracula learned that these new vampires might actually have powers surpassing his own, he agreed to come to San Francisco to get to the bottom of it. The Scoobies realized the rules of magic were making a comeback, showing up in the Slayer's vampire book. Even more interesting, it turned out you could literally rewrite the rules by hand. Seizing the opportunity, Dracula decided to steal the book, hypnotizing Xander again and making him follow his master. Buffy and Willow were shocked when they saw what Dracula had done while they were gone. They immediately started planning their next move. Using the book, Dracula crowned himself the Lord of all vampires. That meant Spike now saw Dracula as his master too, the perfect way to lead Buffy straight to him. In a rush, Dracula and Xander rewrote the vampire book, declaring him the most powerful vampire of all time. Dracula began transforming, growing bigger and bigger. It became clear the book granted wishes, but always in a twisted way. Anyway, the Scoobies had been discussing who should rewrite the new rules of magic. At that moment, the Hoffren showed up and announced that the Magic Council would take care of it. Buffy rejected the idea but said she was willing to listen to their advice. Xander asked the Hoffren in private if he knew anything about Anya's ghost. The Hoffren denied everything. Xander came back to Dawn and they talked about their relationship after all the drama at the end of season 9. Especially how he had betrayed Buffy while trying to save Dawn. Nearby on a rooftop, Buffy and Spike watched them and talked about the tough road ahead. Life settled into a routine with financial problems for the whole crew. Buffy wasn't robbing banks anymore. Dawn and Xander had moved out. Willow joked that if she didn't find a job soon, she'd become homeless too. The detective showed up with an offer from the Supernatural Crime Unit. He brought them a case involving a woman whose house had a dark history. Children had mysteriously disappeared there over the past few decades. She offered them a deal. If the Scoobies could fix it, they'd be allowed to live there for cheap. Inside, they were attacked by a demon that spewed green slime, trapping each of them in vivid illusion. Visions of lost loved ones, almost impossible to resist. Xander and Willow managed to snap out of it and tried to escape the demon's world, but Buffy was still under its influence and nearly attacked her friends. Luckily, she came to her senses just in time. At the same time, Spike was standing by a window watching Buffy. His mother appeared beside him and asked him to close the curtains because she couldn't hear his poetry. She got upset when he said Buffy was important to him, but then Spike remembered her vampire face, twisted and unnatural. And that memory helped him shatter the illusion. The Scoobies regrouped, defeated the demon, and moved into the house, now truly free of any evil. Spike and Xander hauled boxes into the apartment they were now sharing. That unlikely chaotic duo had already stumbled into more than a few unpredictable adventures. Once they had been buried in the pages of the new magic book, picking apart its rules, though Spike warned that no one should ever have that kind of power. Eventually, the conversation drifted to relationships. Spike told Xander that before he could truly love Dawn, he first had to learn to love himself. That set Xander off. He hurled the book across the room and accused Spike of still being in love with Buffy. So they decided to cool off the only way they knew, by going out for a drink. A blonde woman walked up to Spike and the two started flirting. At first, Xander was annoyed, but soon he found himself hitting it off with a brunette of his own. The women invited them back to their place, but the guys turned them down. That's when their eyes glowed green. Sirens. Spike and Xander instantly fell under their spell. The sirens led them down the street. Anya's ghost appeared and warned Xander. But one haunting note from a siren and he was right back under their control, following them again. The sirens led their prey to the mistress, a demoness with a fish-like face and a crown. Spike and Xander were drawn into an intimate encounter against their will. Next, we saw Spike and Xander, both in their underwear, engaged in a full-on pillow fight. Anya started yelling and finally Xander hurt her. He grabbed plastic cocktail swords and jammed them into Spike's ears, bursting his eardrums. This broke the siren's spell for good. Together, they took down the demonesses, but the mistress managed to escape. The guys agreed never to speak of it again. Xander headed home with Anya's ghost. He apologized and offered to use the magic book to turn her back into a human, but she refused. Back at the Scoobies' place, a new twist awaited. The magic book was missing. Everyone kept arguing in circles until Giles suddenly asked, "Has anyone seen Andrew?" That's when it hit them. Andrew had taken the book. They tracked the troublemaker, heading toward Sunnydale. Though the town was destroyed, the Hellmouth was still there. And so was the danger. It turned out Andrew wanted to resurrect Tara using the magic book, still feeling guilty over her death. He kept his mission secret from the others. Willow, Buffy, and Spike set out to find him. In Sunnydale, a new big bad emerged, Soul Glutton. Willow's light magic, which drew power from the soul, only made the demon stronger, so she switched to dark magic and attacked with it. The weakened demon started to flee. The Scoobies split up. Willow went after Andrew, while Spike and Buffy chased Soul Glutton. Our heroes had been powerless against Soul Glutton. In just 1 hour, he had devoured hundreds of souls and absorbed pure energy, drinking in the sacred light of the afterlife. Buffy realized that Soul Glutton had been hunting her because one of the former Slayers had destroyed his family. Spike insisted that if the demon ripped his soul out, he would become the old version of himself, so Buffy would have to kill him. He apologized for the deeply traumatic bathroom scene that had broken every fan's heart. Buffy argued with him, saying she couldn't blame him for who he no longer was, just like with Angel, who had spent 100 years slaughtering nuns. But Spike made it clear he would rather die than go back to the old version of himself. Buffy panicked, refusing to believe his soulless self had been that bad. She remembered how he had saved Dawn, saved all of them more times than she could count, and most importantly, how he had loved her. Spike responded that back then his love had been selfish, so how could it ever have been real in that form? Buffy convinced him that the world was full of selfish people, but even without a soul, there had always been something good in him, something so strong it had come through despite everything. The romantic moment was abruptly interrupted when Soul Glutton attacked again. Spike told Buffy to run, but she refused. Whatever happened, happened to both of them. Meanwhile, Willow tracked down Andrew, who was confused and overwhelmed by doubt. She admitted she had often thought about using the artifacts to bring Tara back, but she knew it would come with consequences. Andrew, however, wanted to fix what had been done to Tara and Willow. In tears, Willow insisted that resurrection would be selfish and cruel, and she wouldn't allow it. Buffy and Spike managed to win a temporary victory over the demon trapping him under the rubble. Afterwards, Buffy decided to fully dedicate herself to being a Slayer and to writing new rules for magic alongside Willow. At the same time, Spike took a job with the Supernatural Crime Unit. Xander started seeing a therapist, which honestly felt like the best character development for him. Out of nowhere, Harmony and Clem showed up accompanied by the vampire Vicky. Since Harmony represented the vampire rights movement, she proposed cautious negotiations. They reached a compromise. Vampires could still walk in sunlight, but they wouldn't be able to transform into bats or other creatures. Then Harmony and Clem dropped by Spike's place. Spike let them in and apologized to Harmony for how he had treated her before. Unexpectedly, Harmony smacked him on the head and started searching for the vampire book. She revealed her plan to use it to make reformed vampirism an official part of magic and to become the most beloved person on Earth. As a generous bonus, she also wanted Buffy, Spike, and Angel to finally enter into a happy polyamorous marriage, which she thought was perfect for them. Spike snapped out of it and grabbed the book back. While Harmony was waiting for her wishes to come true, Spike noticed that Clem hadn't written down any of her crazy plans. Harmony was shocked by Clem's betrayal, but Clem explained he only wanted to protect her from the book's side effects. Harmony ran off in a frenzy until she was stopped by a unicorn appearing before her. Clem had granted her one innocent wish. Spike dodged them both through a window and daydreamed aloud about how great it would have been if the Shanshu prophecy had come true, if he had become human and been happy with Buffy. That's when Xander caught him, and Spike admitted he had been tempted too. He didn't hide that his old soulless self would have jumped at the chance without hesitation, but now he didn't want that. Buffy was happy, and for him, being just a friend was enough. They had no idea Buffy had been listening in on their conversation. With a heavy heart, she quietly walked away to be alone. The funny part came in the very next episode. Buffy tried speed dating, but every potential match left her disappointed. One was too much of a good guy, another way too eccentric, and even a couple of vampires decided to try their luck considering her messy romantic history. Honestly, it was such a clever move to blend these ordinary dating scenarios with the weirdness of the supernatural. By this point, everyone was tangled up in their own love lives. Dawn and Xander were trying to get closer on a date while Willow was seen Halloween at a witch's coven party. Giles met with his ex, Olivia, who now worked as a supernatural consultant for the San Francisco police. She was shocked to see that Giles looked like a kid. He tried to convince her that he was still the same person and wanted to pick up where they had left off, but Olivia refused. She was understandably unsettled by the age gap, and even more by the fact that he didn't see it as a problem. Honestly, I completely supported her decision. Andrew, meanwhile, was on his own journey of self-discovery and finally realized he was gay. Not exactly a shocker. There had been plenty of hints in the TV show, starting with his fixation on Spike. Speaking of Spike, our rebellious vampire teamed up with Detective Dowling to investigate a new case, one that also brought some romantic complications. Dowling tried to set Spike up with Officer Hardwick, who had her eye on him, but Spike wasn't interested. Dowling told him he couldn't keep comparing every new woman to Buffy and that it was time to move on. Back to the case. Spike ran into some demons, and that familiar poker game with kittens made a comeback. At home, Xander was talking to the ghost of Anya about his relationship with Dawn when a sudden knock came at the door. It was Spike holding a litter of kittens he'd rescued from the demons. 6 little presents. Xander didn't want to keep them around, but Spike insisted he would find them homes the next day. For now, he had police business to take care of. On his way out, he bumped into Buffy, who offered to help. At the cemetery, Buffy and Spike took down a new threat of dark creatures, exchanging sharp banter. And then Buffy unexpectedly kissed him. Spike froze, and Buffy explained that she had never really given them a chance before because he didn't have a soul. But after everything that had happened, she had grown up and was finally ready. Spike, however, wasn't sure Buffy truly wanted this. Just like at the end of season 7, he believed she couldn't love him, that he was just her dark place, nothing more than a rebellion against who she was. Fueled by rumors from Xander and his own emotions, Spike said too much and rejected Buffy's romantic feelings. She responded sarcastically, saying maybe it was a bad idea to let him live with Xander. Back at home, Spike and Xander talked about Spike's emotional decision to stay friends with Buffy. Spike realized he had made a mistake, hurting her feelings in a moment of weakness when she finally opened up. He wanted to catch up with Buffy and make things right, but suddenly Andrew burst in, almost like a Hulk version of himself. Andrew introduced the Scoobies to his superhero team with whom he hunted demons. Amid the chaos, Spike tried to talk to Buffy, but she was cold with him and went off to get ready for the fight. During the battle with another demon, Andrew saved everyone, and the scene ended with an epic superhero-style kiss. Xander enthusiastically congratulated Andrew on coming out, though Andrew seemed a bit awkward about it. Spike approached Buffy to apologize, but she stopped him. He was right. She had acted impulsively and stupidly. It had been reckless to risk the friendship they had built over the years. Spike was one of the few people she could truly rely on. Buffy thanked him for making the right choice, but Spike admitted one problem: he had always loved her. They kissed and stumbled into Spike's apartment, accidentally knocking things off shelves and walls as they went. After a spicy night, Spike lay in bed watching Buffy sleep. He He was afraid she wouldn't be there when he woke up, but then told himself he was the happiest man alive, and nothing would ruin this moment. Spike closed his eyes and had a horrible dream about attacking a couple on the street and killing them. The next morning, Buffy woke up and shyly asked if Spike had turned evil again. She was referring to Angel's curse, which caused him to lose his soul after their first time. Pretty awkward. Spike said he was no more evil than usual. He suddenly received a message from a detective. A supernatural death in an alley, the same couple from Spike's nightmare. Unfortunately, it wasn't just a bad dream. Spike asked the Scoobies for help but insisted that Buffy stay out of it. He wanted to make sure he wasn't the killer or possessed by anyone. A ritual was needed. Of course, keeping it secret didn't last long. Buffy warned him that lying wasn't the way, and Spike agreed. He was ready to tell her everything. Meanwhile, Willow sorted out her complicated relationship with the demon Halloween. She said she couldn't trust Halloween's nature and broke things off. The Scooby Gang gathered again to investigate Spike's dreams. Another ritual was planned to dive deep into his subconscious, and Buffy had to take part. This led to one of the most intriguing big bad storylines, offering rich context for the Buffyverse mythology from the very start, including Darla, Drusilla, Angel, and the Master. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think about all those Buffy and Spike moments in the comments. If you are enjoying the ride through Buffy comics, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content. There is more coming soon. See you next time.